Hello and welcome. This is James Blanchard Cisneros at your service. Today's thought of the day is the preview for tomorrow's lesson, and it's called The Opportunity in Negative Emotions. And negative emotions will be in quotes, and I'll explain why later. 3 points that I will mention today. First, when we think about negative emotions, the ego, and I'll put the ego here because it's out of alignment with our true nature. The ego, its main fuel source is judgment. So the ego wants you to judge yourself and others so that it itself can grow and become a bigger part of your life. And so when you have a quote unquote negative emotion, it has you judge yourself as not good enough, not mature enough, not spiritual enough. It has you regret it. It has you judge yourself and put yourself down. Because that way, it knows that when you're feeling down, that's when you're more open to judging other people. When you're out of alignment with your true essence, that's when you're more apt to play the ego's little game and judge others and then fuel the ego. So whenever we're judging ourselves for negative emotions, that's just the ego playing its little game. Let's not buy into it. Point number 2. Now let's remember that we have co-created our journey with God. And so our journey is sacred. And God is all, and God is love. So a perfect creator co-creating with us is not going to have any of our steps be anything other than perfect for our growth, for our healing, and for awakening. And so even those so-called negative emotions that we have been programmed to perceive as negative, they're not really negative in reality. They're just a sacred step on your sacred journey. And so today we're going to leave the ego, leave our judgments of ourselves and others behind, and not use the negative judgments to judge ourselves. Instead, we're going to use them to help us align with our true essence, to help us make a U-turn in our experience, so that when we experience a negative emotion, and that's always in quotes, a negative emotion, we're going to experience it over and over again until we get to a point where we want to make a U-turn in our experience, because we can only suffer for so long before we start choosing another way. And so that negative emotion becomes kind of like a sign, a signpost. For example, back in the day, I used to travel around the States in my car. And back then, they didn't have things called GPSs. They had these things called paper maps. Some of you might know of them. And they weren't always quite clear. So when you traveled somewhere in the middle of the US, very isolated, and you think you're lost, but you're just going, you keep going straight, or you might have taken a back road or something. Sometimes you get a little concerned, especially when the gas seems to be going down, seems to be getting to the low end. And so whenever you see a sign that tells you where you are, you're grateful, you're happy. And so this is how we're going to treat negative emotions. We're going to treat it as a sign that is telling us that we're headed in the wrong direction. And so we use that quote unquote negativity to simply turn around, to say, okay, I'm experiencing this negativity. I've experienced this over and over again, and I've judged myself over and over again for this. Now I'm going to choose another way. And so you see that pain that got you to that point of saying, I want to choose another way. You only got to that other way because of that so-called pain that you experienced. But also you can experience that not as pain, but as a sacred step on your journey. And so we use the negative emotions to help us make that U-turn. That's point number 2. Point number 3. When the negative emotion comes around into our mind, again, we don't buy into it. We don't make it a bigger and bigger part of us. We don't keep on judging ourselves and putting ourselves down. Instead, we offer it gratitude. Let our first response to our negative emotions be gratitude. Because now we know that because of us experiencing these negative emotions over and over again, that's the reason that we chose another way. Because we already tried the ego's game over and over again, and it was not doing anything for us. Nothing positive. And so we went through that journey. And so thanks to our experience, we now can become a wiser, more knowledgeable person. But it was only because of our life experience. And that shows you that God is a God of love, and that every step, yes, you can define it through the ego and see it as bad and painful and put yourself down for, or equally so, you can see it as just a sacred step on your sacred journey and be at peace no matter what you experience. And use that negative emotion not as an adversary, but as an aid in your healing, in your growth, in your awakening. And so you see, even what the ego's world has programmed us to define as negative, it's not in truth negative. It's just a part of our sacred journey. And each part is sacred and good, and can be used when you properly perceive it, when you remember who in truth you are, for your healing, for your growth, for your awakening. And so there's no more need to put yourself down where you're not being a perfect human being. Okay, we're all humans. We're all having the human experience. And each one of our journeys is a sacred co-creation with God. And each one of them is unique, just like you are. And so your experience is perfect for you. Forget about comparing yourself to others. Your experience is perfect for you, no matter what that experience is. But equally so, the amount of pain you experience, emotional pain, mental pain, in that experience, you can control. You can decide to feel this pain over and over again until you get to that U-turn. Or you can see it, okay, I'm having a negative emotion. This is just a sacred step on my journey. And be at peace. And you're God's creation, you're love's creation. Love and peace is an expression of love. So there's no need to put yourself down or judge yourself for negative emotions. See them, simply see them. Remember that you don't want to place any more of your time, focus, and energy on them, because that only grows them, that only grows the ego's part in your life. Instead, you see them, you say, okay, that was my experience in that moment. Now you know what? I've played in that game before. I no longer want it. I turn around and I start aligning with my true self, love, with compassion, with forgiveness, with kindness, with generosity, with peace. Thank you very much for your time. I love you very much. If you'd be so kind as to like or comment on this video, or even share it, I would be very appreciative. If you'd like to leave me a comment or a question, I would be honored to offer a response. And if you can please subscribe to my YouTube channel, I would love to have you in that community. Thank you so much for your time. I love you very much. And God willing, we will see each other tomorrow. Peace.